Welcome to another episode of the Softwarepreneur Show. My name is Pamela Dale, your GHL gal, and have I got a special guest for you today. You're going to want to grab a coffee and a notepad because we have Matt Ratliff in the house, and he is from Funnel Techie, and we're going to talk all about email. Welcome to the show, Matt. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you, Pam. I'm glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Okay, so I'll give you, the email world is all I do every single day. So
Yes.
I meet with clients all over the spectrum. So not only with GHL clients, but ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, ConvertKit, HubSpot, any ESP that you can think of, email service provider you can think of, I've probably been in it and I've probably helped someone with that approach. So email deliverability is a big thing.
Yes.
And it's very significant for any business. So I just basically help people understand what they need to do in order to get their deliverability stats up. It can be very daunting, but yeah, so it's basically what I do.
Fantastic. I've known you for years and I've watched you and have always been really impressed with your level of, I'll call it tech, but you've really
Thank you.
dug into this email deliverability issue. And tell me what it was that brought you to this place in your business.
Yeah, so I love troubleshooting. If I could troubleshoot every single day of my life, I would be in love. That's what gets my juices flowing. That's what engages me. Yeah, that's the way that I've always been. So I come from a very big tech background. So I'm a network engineer by trade.
Okay.
So if you think of Cisco systems, Cisco switches, routers, firewalls, systems, things that make the internet run, things that make the company back infrastructure function. Those pieces is what I'm accustomed to. And so I've built tons of very highly available networks for companies all over the globe. And that's what I've built my tech foundation on. In fact, I've got all sorts of certifications, CCNA, CCNP. I attempted my CIE at one point. So if you know what those certifications are, it's a big deal.
Right.
So in 2017, I landed a job with a big retail company, roughly 900 stores nationwide. And that allowed me to start working from home. And I found, though, that I had loads of free time while working for this company, even though I was a senior network engineer. And then it was always a dream of mine to open up my own company. And so in 2019, I decided to start Funnel Techie. So I saw Julie Stoyan speak on stage at Funnel Hacking Live in 2019. I think it was February of that year, maybe. And so coming out of that event, Funnel Techie was born. And it was born out of the frustration that a lot of people had with using ClickFunnels and getting the tech stack integrated, using Zapier, things like that. I was like, this is a piece of cake for me. So I jumped in.
Amazing.
So I solved that piece of it. And then from there, it began to grow into what it is now. I had a client come to me, I guess it was in the middle part of 2021, and said, Matt, do you know anything about email deliverability? I've got lots of issues. Can you help me with that? And I said, I've built a lot of email servers in my day, so I do know some about it. So I jumped in and was able to figure out exactly what happened, what the cause was, and it was awesome. So since then, that has gradually grown into what it is now, and that's all that I do.
That's so exciting.
Yeah,
I saw a statistic from inbox mailers the other day that something like 47.8% of all email is going to spam,
that's accurate. Yes.
right? Now, we don't know that, do we, though? Like ActiveCampaign and MailChimp will never give you a deliverability report. They always think, oh, perfect, it went through, everything's fantastic. And then
Yeah.
when they jump into GHL, we're getting these spam reports and people are starting to panic. We see the
Mhm.
panic all day long. What do you think the issues are?
I think it's a very broad spectrum. So what's happening is that, just like you just touched on, the email service platform, it's very hard for them to dig into an inbox provider and say, yes, it landed in the inbox, unless you've got some sort of a seed list. And maybe that seed list from some provider is running some sort of stats on that they can gain insight into. Then it's going to be very difficult for any inbox or any ESP to give you stats on deliverability. But I'll touch on something real quick. So people get a lot of things confused when they see a delivered rate. So you see delivered rate inside of SendGrid, you see a delivered rate inside of Mailgun.
Right.
So delivered rate, it just means that a percentage of your email was successfully sent to an inbox provider and it landed someplace. You
Right.
don't know where. So it could have been inbox, promotion, spam, whatever. So it landed someplace, but of course, they're not going to know where it exactly landed. And so What the methodology that I enjoy using is, instead of relying on these third-party applications that claim to give you stats on that piece of it, on the deliverability aspect, I would rely on doing your own sort of testing. And so we can go down this gauntlet list of things to break it down so that people understand and they can do it in a very methodical fashion. But the very first thing is to, of course, create some test inboxes in Gmail, Yahoo, and maybe Outlook,
Look,
and send your campaigns to those inboxes just to get a feel of, to see where they're landing. So if they are landing in the inbox, great. You don't have to do anything else. But if it's landing in spam, then it could be related to any number of things that we can get into. If it's landing in promotions, I tell people kudos to you if it is landing in promotions, because that is the inbox. It's just a sorted version.
right.
So at that point, you just need to adjust your copy. So start with your subject line, make some modifications there, do some more testing. And if it still goes to promotion, maybe adjust the body of the email and see what happens. And that usually will fix it.
So that's why it's ending up in promotions. So a lot of
Yeah.
people will ask that question. So how much of the problems that we see inside of high level are just pure setup is wrong?
Okay, so that's interesting. So that's a good question. So what happens is that, let's say that you've got a GHL location and you're wanting to use Mailgun. In order to get established with Mailgun, you have to have those verification checks across the list, right? Before you can begin sending an email. So that's really straightforward. A lot of people think that you also have to have a DMARC policy, which no ESP is going to tell you to create. Aside from, I see it with Sendinblue is actually a pretty sophisticated platform. They do give you insight on how to create it, but SendGrid and Mailgun, they don't tell you to do anything with DMARC. There's a couple of reasons for that. We'll touch on that here in just a moment. But the fact that you don't have a DMARC policy is not going to hurt you, but you want a DMARC policy to help protect you in the future. So even if you don't have a DMARC policy, that does not mean that you're going to not land in the inbox, right? So DMARC comes later. So let's just put that to the side. But I think for a lot of folks, it's more about the way they conduct their email sends. So a good example, if you newly create a Mailgun domain and you get all those checks and you're able to now send, let's say they got a list of 50,000 contacts and they immediately blast an email out,
Right,
like immediately. That's a red flag because it's on typically a brand new subdomain.
correct.
And not only that, it's on a different set of IPs. So the inbox provider sees this flood of emails coming in. They're like, what the hell's going on? And that's what causes this red flag. And that's what causes a lot of these issues. And so if you took a slower approach, you don't necessarily have to do a full warm up on a shared pool of IPs. We can get super technical, but typically Mailgun will give you 2 IPs per sub account that you create. And typically if you're on a shared pool of IPs, those IPs are warm in some fashion, but your subdomain typically is not. So still be very, very mindful that you probably should go through a very methodical warm-up approach just to introduce the inbox provider to your domain.
The other thing that I see is the domain that it's coming from, the subdomain in Mailgun is, just say, for example, it's mg.mattratliff.com, and they're trying to send email from mattratliff@gmail.com.
Mhm.
So they're not matching their, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that in some sense. So you mentioned, okay, let's break it apart. So let's say that we establish a sending domain inside of Mailgun called mg.mattratliff.com. And when I go into GHL for my location, in my from email address field, maybe I'm putting mattratliff@gmail.com via,
Yeah.
the from address is going to be mattratliff.com. I'm sorry, matt@gmail.com. And we send that email. But when we break the email open, we see that, okay, the from address is matt@gmail.com via mg.mattratliff.com. So that's okay to do, but be very cautious of this, because in order for that to work, the from address, mail.com, that domain, has to have a very relaxed DMARC policy. Now, if you go and look under the hood of Gmail, they do have a DMARC policy established, but it's set into monitoring mode, meaning that the policy is set to none. So they're giving you permission to send through some other domain, which is going to be the mg.mattratliff.com. If they ever change that DMARC policy to be quarantine or reject, and you still attempted to do an email send in that fashion, then they will outright block your email send. just because of that DMARC policy tied to Gmail. So if you look at Outlook and if you look at Yahoo, I believe their policies are set to reject. So you can't send it in that fashion in that case. So those are some of the pitfalls. Now, if you are an agency, and let's say that you have a generic mg.pamela.com sending domain for everyone underneath your umbrella to send through, you can still do that as long as their domain that they're claiming to come from does not have a reject or a quarantine policy for their domain under
So if
DMARC.
they're using Outlook
Yeah,
or Yahoo email
yeah,
address, is what you're saying.
exactly. And this is the same fashion that Active Campaign. So if you went and purchased a brand new Active Campaign setup today, you can get in under 10 minutes and begin sending an email. That's their exact approach. So they'll have some subdomain structure that you're sending emails through, and you can claim to send from any domain under the sun that you would own, and that still works out. So from a deliverability aspect, that's still okay. The only thing that you have to be privy to is whatever via line, whatever subdomain you're sending out of or sending through, you definitely want that to have good deliverability stats. You don't have any insight into that because you don't own that domain. So you're at the mercy of, okay, so my provider, let's hope that they've done their due diligence and their deliverability for just that domain is high. And not only that, the sending IPs that are a part of it. So that also has to be high in order for it to work.
So what would your first steps be to someone who's brand new coming into high level? Would you recommend that they do their own mailgun or LC mail to start?
Yeah, so I don't like using LC just yet, just because I don't think that the support portal is there just yet, because you're one step removed from working directly with Mailgun. You
Right.
don't have direct access to Mailgun support, and you don't have access to any logs. And I've had a lot of clients that have came to me that have said that I've sent an email to support and it's taken them days to get back. So from that aspect alone, I don't like LC email just yet. So I would prefer people to go directly with Mailgun or some other email service provider and work directly with that approach.
And is this for somebody that has an email list of 500 people or somebody that has an email list of 100,000 people, or is it the same for both?
Same for both, because I like to think that if you come in with 0 emails on your list, still go with Mailgun or some email service provider on your own, so that at some point in the future, if you do ever need to dig into logs or if you need to get help directly from the email service provider, you've got that direct access, and your list is going to continue to grow too. So you're going to need that extra help. Yep.
And with the, I'm going to edit this out of here because I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? It was important.
LC email and then
Yeah, with
ESP.
LC email. Okay. What else is important for them to know?
Okay, so let's go down the list. So let's go back to sending email through a subdomain in Mailgun. So I'll try to pick this apart as best I can. So you've created a
Oh, that's
subdomain
where I
in,
was going to go. Okay, so let me ask that question.
okay.
So if someone decides to stay with LC mail, do you
Mhm.
recommend they get their own subdomain or would you send through Lead Connector?
Yeah. Okay. So if they're with LC email, we definitely want them to have a custom domain. So now they've got a little bit more control over it. Still don't have absolute control. There are some things that you won't be able to see because you don't have access to GHL or Lead Connector's Mailgun application, because they're still using Mailgun under the hood.
Yeah.
So there's some things that you can't see, but if you had your own domain, then at least at that point, you can use feedback loop information to get some stats about how at least Google is looking to see how your domain is, what the reputation is basically.
Fantastic. And what are your thoughts around having a couple of different subdomains, one for marketing emails, one for regular emails? Is that something you recommend?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do in my own world. So I've got two GHL locations, and so the way that I like to structure it is that I've
Okay.
got one location that has anything that you ever purchase from me will come through my transactional location, meaning that I've established a transactional sending domain for that one location. So you come in, you make a purchase, that next email that you get will be from my t.funneltechie.com domain, transactional. And then what happens is that I've got an automation, very sophisticated automation, that then takes all of my contacts and syncs it to another location. So when it comes time to me wanting to do some sort of a newsletter approach or a blast or any sort of marketing approach with on my email list, I go to that location and I send marketing emails from my m.funneltechie.com subdomain. That's the approach I like to use. The unfortunate thing right now is that if you have one GHL location, it's not wise to mix both until high level gives us the ability to separate that out within one location. So I
Okay,
hope that comes very soon, and I'll be talking to Sean about that. So we'll see.
fantastic. And you've got this really sexy email statistic dashboard.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So that was born out of the frustration when these are creating unique subdomains for their audience, for their sub accounts,
Yes.
which is a very useful way and it's very clean, very easy, but still your sub account owners are very blind to their holistic email stats. So you can always go to a campaign or maybe an email in an automation or a workflow and get detailed campaign level stats, but you can't overall see in a 30-day view or a 7-day view or what have you of what really is going on with your email. I built a Mailgun dashboard. It's also available for SendGrid now. It's also available for Postmark, and it's all in one package. So there'll be other ESPs coming out with it, but basically what it's going to give you is that holistic view. You'll see your sends in a graph form. I've got little spinners that you can see your open rate, delivered rate, reply rate, complaint, spam complaint rate, and your suppressions, and also your sending IPs.
Can we have a look at it? Can we see
Yeah,
it? And
absolutely.
I think it's so, I'm not as geeky as you, like, and that is a total compliment, but I get really excited when I saw it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yep. So this is my Maverick CRM. This is my agency. So basically, I've got all kinds of different dashboards here, but we'll look at this one. So basically, as an agency owner, you can make a purchase of my Mailgun dashboard and embed it for every sub account that comes in underneath you. And this way, you don't have to, it could be in any situation where maybe you're giving them access to your own Mailgun subdomain, or if they want to go in a different route and use their own Mailgun account with their own custom domain, you can give this to them in any fashion. So it doesn't matter who owns the Mailgun account. So you're going to give them access to it, and this will be inside of their own location. So now if they go to their email stats, let me click on this one and see which domain is tied to this guy. So we can look at information in this graph form. So if at any point we wanted to get rid of these delivered spikes, we can see these other ones. So it's very interactive. You can get rid of all of these and drill down to exactly what we're looking for. And then we can also filter by predefined dates, and we can also do a time range. So if there's maybe a specific time range that you want to focus on instead, you can come here and select it. And then with all of these spinners, we got the delivered rate, the open rate, and I'm giving you information about what to aim for, about what it should be.
Okay.
Your click rate, your bounce rate, spam complaint rate, unsubscribes, and reply rate, which Mailgun does not give you a reply rate, but I'm able to give this to users of the dashboard. And
Wow.
then the suppressions table. And so the cool thing with suppressions is that all of this is an API framework that goes, all of this lives inside of my backend infrastructure that lives in DigitalOcean. And so it's an API framework that connects into Mailgun. And so these suppressions right here, you can come here and actually delete these out if you wanted to, and it will replicate that inside of the real Mailgun account. And then what's mainly the most important here is the sending IPs. So your sending IPs are very critical to your email reputation. So if you had a high domain reputation, but a very low IP reputation for email sends, then that email will always go to spam. So we always want to keep an eye on how our IP reputation is. So the beauty of this is that you can go down to this IP address associated table and see the IPs that are associated to your account, click view report, and this is going to go out to a Cisco intelligence report, and it's going to give you stats on that sending IP. So right now, Cisco, Talos has a neutral status on one of those IPs, meaning that IP is still building up its reputation. There's not enough data on it. Although we do see a spam level of medium.
Yeah.
So it's going in the direction that we don't want it to go in. And we are listed on spam cop here for that one particular IP. So it gives you very useful information. And then you can take this and correct it basically.
This is very powerful. You're no longer walking around in the dark.
Exactly.
There's so many people that I see coming into the group And you can hear it in their voice, like there's just this desperation, but yet have no idea where to go or what to do or how to fix it, or even what's wrong, right? This is very powerful.
Yeah, I think the issue a lot of people have is that there's so much information out there, and there's a lot of misinformation, to be
Yes.
honest, about email deliverability, and that's what's hurting a lot of folks. So if people had the right information and had the right approach of what really to do, then that's really what we need. And that's what I'm trying to give people.
And will this ever be available for LC mail? Is this something that,
We shall see. So I know with LC Mail, they do have a dashboard, so to speak, but it's not as robust as this. It doesn't give you as much detail. But there is one that might change over time. The only way that this would work is if I had Lead Connector's Mailgun private API key, then we could. But I don't know. We'll see. That might be something that we can grow into through my talks with Sean. We'll see.
sure.
That might be something that I
And
could
where
work
do
out.
we currently see the lead connector stats? Do you know where those are?
Though I have not seen them yet. I don't know if that it maybe is still in beta, but I remember at the conference back in October that was discussed, and there was a very short clip of the email stats that are available for LC email, but I've yet to see it in production. So maybe that's still hidden from us.
Fantastic. Well, if you stop sharing your screen so we can see you again,
Okay.
tell us how we can work with you. All of the people that are having these email deliverability issues, etc. How can they reach you?
I think the best thing, I've got tons of done for you services. I've got my Mailgun dashboard. I think the quickest way is there's a couple of ways. You can go to funneltechie.com/schedule and get a schedule a discovery call with me. And we can talk about a few things, just talk about email deliverability as a whole, talk about kind of your plans with your agency or your email sends. And then from there, I can introduce you to my services. Or you can go to eliteemailacademy.com. And that is a 12-step email deliverability checklist for high level. It's very in depth, it's giving you tons of information. So, through that, at the end of that list, you'll see my done for you services and ways to get in touch with me. So, eliteemailacademy.com might be the best way.
Perfect. I'll put those on the screen for us. And
Awesome.
any last parting words?
No, I
Where's email
think that's it.
marketing going? I'd love to know. Is this important?
Say it again.
Email marketing, is this important?
Of course it is. Yeah. Email
Right?
marketing. So, yeah, it's very
So
important.
important.
Yeah. So, just understanding that just breaking things down at a level that people understand is exactly what I'm doing. And so through Elite Email Academy, through the educational channel, that's my plan. So I'll have tons of YouTube videos. I've got my own course that explains the whole gauntlet of the email deliverability, my Mailgun Stats dashboard. And I do have a Elite Email Academy Facebook group that's there. It's a paid subscription, but we talk email deliverability constantly and it's full of information. So that's another way to get in touch.
Fantastic. People need to jump in there. Thank you so much for being on the show. And
Thank
it's
you,
all
Pam.
a pleasure to talk with you. We've worked
Likewise.
together and we'll always be a team. Oh,
Yes.
it's very sexy. Okay.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you everyone for watching.